What's going on, guys? Today I think I'm going to do my very first kind of weekly news recap type video. I think the plan is to have one of these each week because there's so much stuff that happens kind of in the financial world, in the Bitcoin world, in the crypto world, things that I'm looking at and thinking about that's kind of going on from a current event standpoint. The first thing I want to talk about is the stock market. The stock market has basically been a disaster for the past, 6 or 7 months. And so we've been in that part of the market for the past few weeks where people get really scared. They take their money out. It keeps dropping. So even in the market today, it's talking about how the Dow is rising, the S&P 500 index is rising. And we've had almost 2 months, it feels like, straight of downward prices. So the question that always comes up is, have we hit the bottom? Pretty much stocks across the board are down pretty significantly from their all-time highs or from where they were even just a few months ago. So in general, if there are good companies out there that you're interested in, you like, anytime that they're on sale, it's not necessarily a bad thing to buy. But there's definitely stuff happening with the market overall that's impacting just about every stock. And the main factors that are impacting the market are obviously the Federal Reserve and the policy changes that they're talking about, as well as inflation continuing to go up and people feeling the pressure of higher prices pretty much all across the board. So as of right now, from a macro perspective, there's nothing that's happened that's basically kind of pushing a reversal, right? I mean, the Fed has already said that they're gonna have to curb inflation. Powell just came out, I think this week, or it might have been late last week, and basically said that there might be some pain required in order to curb inflation. If Powell says some pain may be required, I think that means that they're planning to do whatever's necessary to make sure inflation doesn't get out of control. And in general, that means bad news for stocks. Now, the challenge is that stocks have already been beaten down. So it's a question of how much further down can they go. Another thing that I think is helpful to look at is to take a look at the stock charts. So what I have here is the S&P 500 index on the weekly chart. And so just FYI, if you're wondering what application this is actually TradingView. TradingView is the application I use for basically all my stock charts, my crypto charts. I like TradingView. I use it daily, and they have native apps for iPhone and for Mac OS. So anyway, if you're wondering what application it is, that's what it is. So if you look at the weekly chart for the S&P 500 index, this weekly chart's been in a downtrend for a while, right? Basically since January. The only thing that I would say about this chart is when you look at the MACD, it's had kind of this increased downward pressure for a month and a half, 2 months now. If you ask me just based on the chart and based on the macro stuff that's going on with the Fed, my guess is that we probably have not hit the bottom of the stock market. I think at a minimum, it'll continue to range up and down a little bit, maybe retest the lows that it's hit up to this point, but I wouldn't be surprised if it went lower. Now, that being said, if you're a long-term investor and you're trying to build wealth long-term, you don't need to time the bottom. If you're constantly looking out for great companies that you're interested in and looking at when they go on sale and they're at a discount and buying, then that's a winning formula. And the master of that has been Warren Buffett, right, throughout his career. And if you look at the news on Buffett this week, he's buying. If people like Warren Buffett are looking in this market and finding companies that they really like that are at a discount and buying, then you probably can too. Because the goal is not to hit the bottom every time. The goal is buy great companies at a discount and get those returns over time. I think people will look back at May 2022 and be like, wow, stocks were so cheap, you guys were so lucky to get to buy then. And if you measure your investment time horizon in years, you'll probably be just fine. All right, so next topic, our friends at the Fed released the 2022 Economic Well-Being of U.S. Households report. So basically what they do is they do a survey each fall and they try to get a pulse of how people are doing economically. Now I went and I looked at the numbers of how many people they surveyed. It was only about 11,000 people. So there's about 250 million adults in the US. So I guess just take the numbers with a grain of salt, but it may provide some insight as to how people are doing and what's going on. But there were a couple of things that I found pretty interesting, like this table about retirement savings and people's opinion about their own retirement savings and if they think it's on track or not. The percentage of people that think that their retirement savings is on track is extremely low. There's only a couple groups that are even over 50%. And there's some that are like in the 20s and 30s. That's a little bit scary, right? I think what that tells you is that in general, people are not feeling confident that they have a handle on retirement. And then the next chart that I thought was interesting is the percentage of people who felt mostly or very comfortable investing their self-directed retirement savings. As you guys know, retirement savings has really kind of pivoted away from a company pension to now having a 401k. Personally, I think that's better for people because you get to be in control of your own retirement savings. You don't have to trust that a company is going to stay around for your lifetime in order to continue getting your pension. But the flip side of that is that it puts the responsibility on you to be able to make sure that you're investing for your retirement in a good enough way. And what this chart shows is that most people don't feel very confident that they're investing for retirement and that they know what they're doing. So what these charts are saying to me is that there's a huge opportunity to help educate people on how to take care of their retirement. We've got to do a better job of helping people understand that investing doesn't have to be complicated, right? You don't have to get the most perfect returns, the most optimized returns. It's invest in something that has a high likelihood of being successful for you over a long period of time and go live your life, right? That's a winning combination. Okay, next topic is Fidelity. They're offering a Bitcoin investment option for 401ks for companies that use Fidelity as their retirement plan or retirement plan provider. So this is actually pretty interesting. I'm curious to see how many companies actually use this though, right? Because it's basically going to be an option, and each company that uses Fidelity as their retirement provider will have to choose to kind of enable it or to make it available to their employees. And the news that already came out is that any company that offers it probably should expect to get asked a lot of questions from our regulatory bodies about the risks and what they're doing to help educate their employees. When people wonder, okay, if this is available, should I invest my retirement account in Bitcoin? It's always going to depend on your own personal risk tolerance and what your interest in Bitcoin is. Of course, long-term price appreciation and investment gains is part of it. But if you remember in my video about why you should care about Bitcoin, a lot of what I talk about is that Bitcoin as a censorship-resistant asset that you can use in a crisis is one of the huge benefits of it. If you have it in your 401k, you're not going to have access to it, right? Or even if you do, it's going to be very painful and costly to do so. So if what you're looking for is long-term price appreciation only, it obviously should help you hold on to it for a long period of time. But if what you're looking for is investment gains, price appreciation, plus having a censorship-resistant asset that maybe you can use outside of the traditional financial system, then having it in your retirement account is probably not going to help you. Even though I think it's very cool that Fidelity is offering this, again, it just pushes the space forward, I would be surprised if a lot of companies decide to include it. And I'm curious to see if they come out with any numbers about adoption rates of it. Whether it's the right thing for you or not is going to depend on what your primary interest in Bitcoin is. So lastly, and most importantly, I've been waiting for this one, Balenciaga, I hope I pronounced that right, has decided to accept Bitcoin and another cryptocurrency as payment. So look, I will be the first to admit that I am not the most up to date on high fashion. I'm sure my daily black t-shirts are a strong indicator of that. But when I went and looked at the Balenciaga shoes, so I'm sorry, I don't get it. I don't get paying $1,100 for a shoe that looks like this. I have always said I am never one to judge anybody on spending their own money on whatever they want. If you like these Balenciaga shoes and you can afford it, have at it. I'm happy for you. But yeah, nah, it's not for me. No, I don't want to look like an extra in a bad 90s R&B video. No, I'm good. But back to the main point, Balenciaga is now going to accept Bitcoin. Awesome, good for them. Again, any one of these stories, in my opinion, helps push the space forward. I'm always curious to know how many people actually buy and actually use it as a payment rail. But happy for them. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy your weekend. Take care of your families, and I'll see you next week. Peace.